She was just a hungry mother begging for scraps. But when the billionaire turned around, he didn't just give her leftovers. He gave her everything, and paid a price no one saw coming. Where are you watching from? Please, comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. The sun was too hot, and Eniola hadn't eaten for 2 days. She sat with her 4-year-old son Toby under the bridge at Marina Lagos. His lips were dry, and his eyes had stopped sparkling. Eniola looked around for help, but no one paid attention. Rich cars passed. People walked fast like she didn't exist. Her son tugged her shirt weakly. "Mummy, I'm hungry." She had sold her last tray of oranges a week ago. Nothing was left. No money, no food. And she couldn't even borrow again. She still owed the last woman who lent her. Then, she saw something that made her heart beat fast. A man stepped out of a black G-Wagon. He wore a gold watch, sharp suit, and dark glasses. The security men around him looked serious. But the man smiled as he entered a 5-star restaurant. Everyone seemed to know him. They called him Chief Dapo. Some even whispered he was worth billions. Eniola stared at the restaurant. Then she looked at her son. His small hands were shaking. That was it. She stood up slowly, holding Toby. Her heart beat fast. Shame made her want to sit back down. But hunger was stronger. She waited near the entrance, her eyes on the glass doors. She didn't even know what to say. When Dapo came out with his bodyguards, Eniola stepped forward. "Please, sir," she said with a shaky voice. Can I have some of your leftovers?" The guards moved to block her, but Dapo raised his hand. He looked at her. His eyes paused on Toby's skinny arms and swollen belly. He said nothing. Eniola held her breath, afraid she had made a big mistake. Chief Dapo looked at Eniola like he had seen a ghost. For a moment he didn't move. He didn't even blink. "Wait," he finally said, voice low. "What did you just ask me?" Eniola held her son closer and looked down. "I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted what you didn't finish eating. My son hasn't eaten since yesterday." Silence. The bodyguards looked uncomfortable. People had started to gather. Phones were out. Some were already recording. Dapo sighed and waved everyone away. He turned to his driver and whispered something. Then he looked back at Eniola. "Follow me." Eniola was confused. "Follow you where, sir?" He didn't answer. He just walked to his car. The back door opened. "Get in," he said. Eniola hesitated. Her heart screamed, "No," but Toby cried again. She entered. The car was cold and smelled expensive. Toby fell asleep in her lap the moment the AC hit him. Dapo stared at them for a long time. "You remind me of someone," he said. Eniola didn't speak. She didn't know what to say. 20 years ago, he began, "My mother was just like you. She begged on these same streets. One day, a man changed everything for us. But later, that same man tried to destroy us." Eniola's eyes widened. The ride was silent after that. They stopped at a high-rise, a luxury apartment. "Come inside," Dapo said. She stepped in carefully. Everything looked golden. Marble floors. Clean air, smiling staff. One maid came out with food on a silver tray. Fried rice, grilled chicken, salad. Real food. "For your son," Dapo said. "And you too." Tears rolled down Eniola's cheeks. "Why are you helping me?" Dapo paused. "I don't know. Maybe because I remember pain too." But just as she picked up a spoon, the elevator door opened, and a woman in a red dress stepped out, heels clicking like gunshots on the floor. She froze when she saw Eniola. "Dapo, who the hell is this?" the woman snapped. Eniola panicked. "Relax, Bissy," Dapo said calmly. "She's a guest," the woman laughed. "You brought a beggar into our home." Eniola wanted to disappear. Her son held her tighter. Then Bissy stepped closer. eyes full of fire. "You made a big mistake, Dapo," she whispered. And so did she. Eniola didn't know what was coming, but she could feel danger. Big danger. Bisi's smile was sharp, fake, and cold. She walked around Eniola slowly, like a lion circling its prey. Her red dress dragged across the marble floor, echoing louder than her voice. "So this is what we do now?" she said to Dapo. "Pick up hungry strangers and bring them home like charity cases?" "She's not a case," Dapo said. "She's a mother." Bisi laughed bitterly. "And I'm supposed to care?" Eniola wanted to sink into the floor. She stood up quickly. "Thank you for the food, sir. I will go now." "No," Dapo said. "You're staying. For now." His voice was calm but final. Bisi raised one eyebrow. "In my house? She's not staying here, Dapo." Dapo looked at her with steady eyes. "Then maybe you're the one who needs to leave." The room went silent. Bisi's mouth dropped. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by him. They had been business partners and lovers for years. Everyone knew Bisi was the woman behind some of Dapo's most ruthless deals. "I see," she said coldly. "You've chosen her." Dapo shook his head. "Don't be ridiculous." But the way he said it, there was something there, a hidden truth Bisi didn't want to see. She turned and stormed out, slamming the door. Eniola stood frozen. Her heart was pounding. Dapo finally looked at her. "I'm sorry. She's not always like that." Eniola shook her head. "You've done enough. I can't bring problems into your life. I'll go." But Dapo didn't let her leave. Instead, he told her something that made her legs weak. "I want to help you, Eniola. I want to give you a fresh start. Not because I pity you, but because I believe in second chances." She blinked fast. "But you don't even know me," he smiled. "I don't need to. I know pain when I see it, and I can't explain it. But you feel familiar." Eniola lowered her head. She didn't know what he meant, but her heart felt strange, like something big was about to happen. Then Dapo made an offer. "Come work in my house. Be a kitchen assistant. I'll pay you well, and your son can stay with you." Eniola's eyes widened. "Are you serious?" "Yes. One condition," he said. She waited. "Don't ever lie to me." Eniola couldn't sleep. The room Dapo gave her was bigger than her old one-room shack. Clean white sheets, a bathroom with hot water. Even a small TV. Toby slept like a king for the first time in weeks. But Eniola's heart was heavy. Why would a man like that help her? What did he mean when he said she felt familiar? And that woman, Bisi. Something about her didn't feel safe. The way she looked at Toby. Suddenly there was a soft knock on her door. Eniola jumped. She opened it slightly. It was the maid, Amaka. "Sister, come with me," she whispered. Eniola followed her quietly to the servant quarters behind the mansion. Inside, 2 other houseworkers were waiting. They looked worried. "What's wrong?" Eniola asked. "You need to be careful," Amaka said. "Bisi is not just Dapo's business partner. She owns 40% of his company, and when she doesn't get what she wants, people disappear." "Disappear?" Eniola repeated. "Yes," said the cook. 2 months ago, another woman came here. Just like you. Poor. With a baby. She worked here for 2 weeks. Then one night she and her baby were gone. Eniola felt her knees go weak. Did they run away? Amaka shook her head slowly. "That's what they told us. But that woman had just been offered a permanent job. She had no reason to run." Fear crawled into Eniola's chest. She looked out the window. The house was quiet. Too quiet. "I think you should take your son and go," the youngest maid whispered. "This place, it looks good outside, but something inside is rotten." Eniola nodded slowly. Her mind was spinning. But where would she go? She had no money, no one to call, and yet staying felt like walking into a lion's den. Back in her room, she watched her son sleep. Toby turned in bed and whispered, "Mummy, are we safe now?" Eniola blinked fast. She wanted to say yes, but all she could whisper was, "I hope so, baby. I really hope so." Just then, her phone vibrated. It was a message, unknown number. "I know who you are, Eniola. And if you stay, I'll make sure your past catches up to you." She gasped. Her past? But who knew? And what had she done so long ago that could now destroy everything she was trying to build? Eniola stared at the message on her phone. "I know who you are, Eniola. And if you stay, I'll make sure your past catches up to you." Her hands trembled. Her breath grew short. "No one's supposed to know," she whispered. She had buried her old life like a coffin, locked, deep, and forgotten. She had changed cities, cut ties, even changed how she looked. How could someone know? She checked the number. It was hidden. Was it Bissy? Was someone following her? Toby stirred in bed, moaning softly. The innocence in his face made her chest ache. She couldn't afford to fall apart now. She couldn't afford to lose this opportunity. She stood up, locked the door, and turned off her phone. But deep inside, a voice whispered, "You can't run from the truth forever." The next morning, she wore the new kitchen uniform Amaka gave her. She made sure Toby had enough food and cartoons before stepping out. Her first day working in Dapo's kitchen started quietly. "Don't touch the wine cabinet," the head chef warned, "and never enter the private lounge unless Dapo calls you there. Understood?" Eniola nodded. By 10 a.m., Bisi walked in. Dressed, in a tight black suit, sunglasses indoors, and a face that could break glass, she paused at the door of the kitchen. "So, the beggar is now the chef?" she said, smirking. Eniola kept her eyes down. "Good morning, Ma." Bisi tilted her head. "You're smart. Stay quiet. Stay small. That's how people like you survive." She dropped her sunglasses on the counter and whispered, "I don't care what Dapo promised. You'll never belong here. And when he gets bored, you and your son will be right back under that bridge." Then she walked out like smoke. Eniola clenched the kitchen towel in her hand. Something was boiling inside her. Not just fear now, anger, but she remembered what Dapo said. "Don't ever lie to me." She needed to find a way to stay, without giving Bissy a reason to strike. That evening, while cleaning the dining table, she overheard two security guards whispering, "You heard about the new woman?" "Yeah. Boss told us to watch her." "Why?" "She looks harmless." "Because he said she might be connected to the thing from the past." "Which thing?" "The Ikoyi case." Eniola dropped the plate she was holding. The Ikoyi case. She hadn't heard that name in 5 years. The case that changed her life. The case that made her run. Was that why Dapo took her in? Was this a trap? That night, while everyone slept, Eniola sneaked into the study. She needed answers. She knew it was a risk, but her instincts screamed louder than fear. Dapo's study was quiet, cold, and smelled like leather and books. She crept toward the big desk and started opening drawers slowly. Old files, property deeds, receipts. Then she saw a file with her name on it. Eniola Ajayi, Lagos record. Her heart nearly stopped. She opened it and froze. Inside was a printed report from 5 years ago, a police statement, a hospital report, a newspaper. Headline: School secretary escapes after massive embezzlement scandal. No, she whispered. That wasn't what happened. She flipped pages. Everything they accused her of back then, stealing from the school, causing a student's collapse, disappearing with the money. It was all there. But the truth? No one ever listened to her side. She wasn't the thief. She was the scapegoat, and now Dapo had the file. Why would he have this? She muttered. Who gave him this? Just then, the door behind her creaked. She turned fast and saw Dapo standing there. His face was unreadable, his eyes fixed on the open drawer. You're not supposed to be in here, Eniola backed up. I was just reading about yourself, he said. Her voice cracked. Please. I didn't steal that money. I was framed. I was young. I didn't even understand what was happening. Dapo didn't respond for a long moment. Then he said, I know. Eniola's breath caught. You know? Yes, he said, walking slowly to the desk. That's why I brought you here. She blinked fast. Then why didn't you say anything? Dapo looked at her, voice low. Because the man who framed you was my father. Her legs went weak. No, that can't be. Yes, he said. He was the school's biggest donor, and he covered up a lot of things. I found out after he died. I've been trying to track everyone he hurt. Tears filled Eniola's eyes. So this isn't kindness. It's guilt. Dapo shook his head. It's justice. But before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He picked it up, listened, and then his face turned dark. He ended the call and looked at her. You need to get your son. Now. Why? Because Bissy just went to the press. What? She leaked your file. By morning, the world will know everything about your past, and they'll eat you alive. By the time Eniola rushed into her room, Toby was already awake and sitting up, confused. Mummy, what's wrong? She forced a smile, hiding the storm in her chest. We have to go, baby. Now. She packed the little clothes they had into a bag with shaky hands. She didn't know where she was going. She just knew she had to leave before sunrise. Once the press got hold of her name, everything would collapse in the living room. Dapo waited with his car keys. He was on the phone, pacing. No, pull the article down. I don't care how much it costs. Do it. He ended the call and turned to Eniola. She sent it to every blog in Lagos. It's trending already. Eniola's stomach turned. I told you this would happen. It's not your fault, he said. Yes, it is, she snapped. I should have stayed under that bridge. I don't belong in your world, Dapo. He looked at her with something deeper than pity, maybe regret, maybe guilt, maybe something else. You do belong here, he said. But not like this, not running. Toby clung to her leg. Mummy, I'm scared. Dapo knelt and looked at him. I'll protect you, okay? But we have to be smart. He turned back to Eniola. There's a place, a private resort outside Lagos. My friend owns it. You and Toby can stay there, off the grid, until I fix this. And then what? She asked. When everyone knows my name, my face, my past, then we fight, he said, together. She looked away, tears stinging her eyes. I'm not used to people fighting for me, she whispered. Well, he said, get used to it. Bisi poured herself a glass of wine and smiled as she watched the news on her tablet. Breaking. Alleged. Thief and runaway mother. Found living in Billionaire's mansion, Eniola Ajayi, the woman involved in the infamous Ikoyi school fund scandal, is now living under the roof of business mogul Chief Dapo Akinleye. She swiped down to read the comments. Gold digger spotted. Dapo has lost his mind. She used her child to trap him. Disgusting. Once a thief, always a thief. Exactly what Bisi wanted. Her phone rang. It was the head of their investment board. Bisi, what is going on? This is damaging the company's image. She acted shocked. I warned Dapo about her. He didn't listen. Tell him to handle it, or the board will. She hung up and smiled. Phase 1. Complete. Bisi didn't hate Eniola because she was poor. She hated her because Dapo had looked at her like She mattered. And Bissy wasn't used to sharing attention. She remembered the old days, when she and Dapo built their empire. She was there through the bribes, the scandals, the cover-ups. She helped him bury more than one mistake. And now, this nobody with a child was threatening all of that? No. She picked up her phone and made another call. I need someone followed. Eniola Ajayi. She's leaving Lagos tonight. A voice on the other end chuckled. Done. And when I find her? Bisi's voice went cold. Send a message. Let her know this isn't over. Meanwhile, Eniola sat in the back seat of Dapo's car, holding Toby. They had been driving for hours. Her mind wouldn't rest. Do you trust your friend? She asked. With my life, Dapo replied. But even he didn't know that Bisi had spies everywhere, and one of them was in the house the whole time. As the car slowed down near the resort gate, a black motorcycle parked nearby. The rider watched quietly and made a silent call. They're here, he whispered. Want me to act? Not yet, Bisi replied. Let them feel safe first. The private resort sat near the water, hidden behind tall palm trees and a long stretch of quiet land outside Lagos. No crowds, no cameras, no chaos, just silence, and for the first time in weeks, peace. Eniola stepped out of the car and looked around. The building was clean, beautiful, and quiet. She held Toby's hand tightly. His eyes lit up at the sight of a small playground behind the guest house. Dapo's friend, Mr. Okon, welcomed them warmly. He was in his 50s, bald, and had a kind face. You'll be safe here, he said, shaking Eniola's hand. No one knows this place, no journalists, no drama. Eniola bowed slightly. Thank you, sir. Dapo whispered something to Mr. Okon, handed him an envelope, and turned to Eniola. I'll return in 3 days. I need to handle Bisi and clear your name. Eniola nodded slowly. Just be careful. I should be saying that to you, Dapo replied. Then he knelt and hugged Toby. Take care of your mum, all right? Toby nodded proudly. After Dapo drove off, Eniola and Toby were shown to their room. It was small, but cozy. For the first time in weeks, Eniola took a hot shower, ate a full meal, and sat on a real couch. She stared at the ocean view through the window, wondering how her life had flipped upside down so fast. But deep down, a storm of worry was still brewing. That night, she was helping Toby brush his teeth when Mr. Okon knocked. Sorry to bother you, he said, but someone dropped this at the gate. It was a small brown envelope with no name. Eniola opened it slowly and gasped. Inside was a photo. Her, holding Toby's hand, walking into the resort that afternoon. On the back, a message was written in red ink. You can run, but not far. Watch. You're back. Her hand shook. Mr. Okon saw the fear on her face. Is something wrong? She hid the photo behind her. No, sir. Just tired. But in her mind, sirens were blaring. They knew where she was. Bisi had found her. She didn't sleep that night. Back in Lagos, Dapo stormed into his boardroom, flanked by 2 lawyers. Bisi sat at the far end of the aisle. Table, legs crossed, a glass of red wine in her hand. Well, if it isn't the savior of stray women, she said coolly. Dapo didn't smile. You leaked her file. Bisi pretended to act shocked. Leaked? Oh no, I just forwarded an email someone sent me. Can't help if it went viral. You crossed a line. Bisi stood and walked slowly toward him. No, Dapo. You crossed the line. You brought your emotional baggage into our company. You made a scandal out of nothing. She was a victim, he snapped. You turned her into a target. Bisi's smile vanished. I turned her into news. Now the board wants you out, unless you cut ties with her and make a public apology. Dapo's jaw tightened. That's not happening. Then be ready to lose everything, she said. I built this company with you. Don't forget that. Dapo's lawyer stepped forward, Actually, BC, your shares can be frozen pending a legal review. Dapo has grounds for conflict of interest. BC scoffed. You think I care about legal threats? I don't need to win in court. I just need to win in the press. Dapo leaned closer, his voice low. You've made your move. Now watch mine. Later, that night, he received a call from Mr. Okan. Dapo, he said carefully, we have a problem. Dapo stood up straight. What happened? Someone left a threatening photo at the gate. She hasn't told me, but I saw her reaction. She's scared. Dapo's voice turned cold. Get 2 guards, full watch. Don't let her or the boy leave alone. I'm coming back sooner than planned. As he ended the call, Dapo's phone buzzed. Again. A message from a blocked number. We warned you. The next photo won't be so friendly. Attached was a blurry photo of Toby standing alone near the playground. Dapo's blood ran cold. They weren't playing anymore. The moment Eniola woke up, she could feel it. Something was off. She looked at the bed. Toby was gone. Her heart jumped out of her chest. Toby, she called, rushing out of the room barefoot. She ran to the kitchen, to the front garden, to the back of the house. Nothing. No laughter, no small feet running around. The guards Mr. Okan posted the night before were both gone too. She felt like screaming. Then from a distance she heard a small voice near the trees behind the resort. Look, it's a butterfly. She ran toward the sound and found Toby squatting in the grass, watching a butterfly dance around a flower. A young woman stood beside him, a face Eniola didn't recognize. She grabbed Toby. Get away from him, the woman smiled calmly. Relax, Ma. I was just playing with him. Who are you? Eniola asked, eyes wide. New housemaid, she replied, still smiling. Mr. Okan said I should help with your boy. Mr. Okan didn't mention anyone. The woman didn't answer. She just turned and walked away casually. But Eniola's heart was beating fast. Something about that woman wasn't right. She pulled Toby inside and locked the door. Then she called Dapo. He picked up on the first ring. Where is your son? He asked immediately. With me, she replied. But don't open the door for anyone, he cut in. I'm on my way. Stay inside. Dapo, tell me what's happening. They're targeting him now, and I don't know how deep this goes. Meanwhile, in a high-rise building in Ikoyi, BC stood in front of a screen, watching CCTV footage from the resort. Her eyes narrowed at the close-up shot of Toby. He's just a kid, said the man beside her. No, Bissy replied, her voice ice-cold. He's her weakness, and we break people by cracking their weakest point. You want him kidnapped? Not yet, she said, sipping her wine. Let her feel safe again, then strike. The man raised an eyebrow. Why not just end this, now? Bissy turned slowly. Because I don't want her gone, she said softly. I want her broken. Dapo arrived at the resort late that night, alone, with only one trusted guard in the car. Eniola ran out as soon as she saw him. I don't feel safe here anymore. You're right not to, Dapo said, scanning the area. I traced the threat. It came from inside our company. Someone's leaking our moves. Then we have to go, she said. Me and Toby, somewhere far, start fresh. I've already arranged it, Dapo said. My aunt has a property. In Calabar, hidden, secure. You'll disappear completely. New names, new records, everything. But what about you? She asked. I'll fix things here, he said. Then I'll come for you. But before they could leave, one of the guards ran up. Sir, there's a car parked just outside the main gate. No one inside. Dapo's eyes narrowed. Show me. Eniola stayed behind, holding Toby tightly. But something told her. This wasn't over. Outside, Dapo and his guard approached the parked vehicle. No plates. Tinted windows. The guard opened the driver's side slowly. Nothing inside. But on the passenger seat was a folder. Dapo opened it. Inside were photos, Photos of Eniola in the kitchen, in the living room, sleeping, even in the shower. Someone had been watching her for days. And on top of the pile was a note. "You can run, but we're always watching. You took what belonged to me. Now I'm taking everything." Dapo's jaw clenched. "We leave now." Back inside, Eniola had just finished packing when she heard the faint sound of glass shattering. She rushed out of the room and froze. The living room window was broken. On the floor was a rock with a red ribbon tied around it. A paper was attached. "You made him choose. Now choose your son or his life." She picked up the note, her hands trembling, her heart pounding like thunder. Then her phone rang. A strange number. She picked up. "You don't deserve his help," the voice said. "You'll destroy him, just like you destroy everything. If you want him to live, leave him tonight. Disappear, or we'll finish what we started." The line went dead. She looked down at Toby, peacefully asleep on the bed. Tears rolled down her face. This wasn't just a fight for justice anymore. This was war. Eniola sat on the edge of the bed, frozen, the phone still in her hand. The voice on the line repeated itself in her mind like a curse. "Choose your son, or his life." Her hands were wet with sweat. Her mouth was dry, and her heart. It was breaking in slow motion. Dapo walked in a minute later and saw the broken window, the note, and her face. "What happened?" he asked sharply. She handed him the paper. He read it, and his entire body stiffened. "This is Bissy," he said, through clenched teeth. "This is how she plays. Cruel, personal, dangerous. But she doesn't want to hurt me," Eniola whispered. "She wants to hurt you. And she's using you to do it." Eniola shook her head slowly. "Maybe she's right. Maybe I should leave before someone dies." "No," Dapo said firmly. "Don't you dare give her what she wants." "But Toby—" "I will protect him," he interrupted. "I'll protect both of you. You're not alone anymore." Eniola looked at him, really looked. There was fire in his eyes, rage and care mixed into something deeper. Something she hadn't felt from a man in years. Trust. But even trust couldn't stop fear from growing inside her. That night, while Toby slept in Dapo's arms on the long drive to Calabar, Eniola stared out the window. The stars blinked above, the trees. The tires hummed on the lonely highway. Everything was still, too still. Suddenly, the driver slowed down. "Why are we stopping?" Dapo asked. "There's a car blocking the road," the driver replied. Dapo peered ahead. A black SUV, lights off. No movement. He opened the glove box, pulled out a small pistol, and whispered, "Stay inside. Lock the doors." But Eniola's instinct screamed. "No," she said. "Something's wrong." Before Dapo could respond, two men stepped out from behind the SUV. Both wore black. One had a bat, the other a gun. Then a third man came out, with a camera. They weren't here to kill. They were here to humiliate. "Chief Dapo," one of them shouted, filming. "Tell the world what you're doing here, driving your housemaid and her child across state lines at midnight? What's the plan? Eloping?" Eniola ducked in the back seat, shaking. Toby woke up crying. The men banged the windows. Cameras flashed. Laughs echoed. Then Dapo stepped out of the car slowly, gun at his side. "Delete that video," he said calmly. The man holding the phone smirked. "Or what? I'll make you wish you had," Dapo growled. A shot fired. Not from Dapo's gun, from behind the trees. The bullet hit the ground near the men's feet. They screamed, dropped the camera, and ran. Another man stepped out from the shadows, Dapo's personal guard. "Boss," he said, "I figured you'd need backup." Dapo exhaled. "Slowly. You have no idea." The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Calabar. casting warm light through the curtains of the safe house. Toby played quietly with toy cars in the corner, while Eniola sat on the couch, hugging her knees. Dapo stood beside the window, on the phone with his lawyer. "She's behind it all," he said. "But I can't prove it yet." "You may not need to," the lawyer replied. "I've been digging into Bisi's past. There's something you should see." "Send it to my private inbox," Dapo said. 10 minutes later, he sat beside Eniola and handed her the tablet. "What's this?" she asked. "Bisi's secret." Eniola tapped the screen. Her mouth fell open. It was a scanned court document, an adoption file, and the child's name. "Eniola Ajayi." She gasped. "She tried to adopt me?" Dapo nodded. "You were 10 years old. She applied to foster you after your mother died, but the social worker flagged her as unstable, violent. The request was denied. You were sent to a group home instead." Eniola's heart pounded. She remembered me." "More than remembered," Dapo said. "She never forgot." Eniola's mind flooded with broken memories. Dark hallways, a woman watching her from a distance, promises whispered through fences. She wanted control. "Even back then," Eniola whispered. "And now she thinks she lost again," Dapo said. "That's why she's trying to destroy you." Eniola looked up, eyes wide with realization. "This is personal to her." "Yes," Dapo replied, "which means it's time we stop hiding. It's time we fight back." That evening, Dapo made a video. He sat in front of the camera with Eniola, beside him and Toby on her lap. He spoke to the world, to the media, to the board. He told the truth about Eniola's past, about Bisi's lies, about the threats, the blackmail, and the war behind closed doors. He ended with this: "I will not be blackmailed. I will not be controlled. And I will not abandon a woman and child who've done nothing wrong, only because someone powerful decided they didn't belong." He posted it everywhere. Then he turned to Eniola. "This will start a new storm," he said. "But maybe this time, it's our storm." Dapo's video exploded online. Within hours, the hashtags Jaler Justice for Eniola and Darun Stand with Toby were trending across Nigeria. Influencers reposted it. Radio stations debated it. News anchors called it the most shocking exposé from the elite in recent history. People were outraged. Many had heard rumors about Bisi's cruelty in the past, but now they had proof. Thousands commented, "How many others has she buried with lies?" Eniola is stronger than half these politicians. Dapo is a real one, for standing up for her. Someone protect that boy. Please. But not everyone was cheering. In Bisi's office, glass shattered. She had thrown her wine at the screen. "That fool," she hissed. "He thinks the internet can save her?" Her assistant stood silently. "You!" she barked. "Get me every blogger who reposted that video. I want them shut down." "Ma, with all due respect," the assistant whispered. I think we're losing public support." Bisi turned slowly, her eyes cold. "You think I care about public support? Do you know how many judges owe me favors?" She paced. The room like a trapped animal. Eniola thinks this is her moment. But I know her weakness. It's not the public. It's not even her past. She stopped. It's that child. Back in Calabar, Eniola tried to act calm, but fear clung to her like a second skin. Toby was drawing on the floor with crayons, his mind far from the storm outside. Eniola stared at the door, her ears tuned to every creak, every sound. "Is it really over?" she asked Dapo. He shook his head. "Not even close. We've wounded her. Now she'll strike back. But she's been exposed. Bisi doesn't care about exposure. She only cares about winning." Just then, Dapo's phone beeped. A text from an unknown number. "Cute kid. Hope nothing happens to him before bedtime." He stood up instantly. "We're leaving," he said. "Now." They never saw it coming. While they packed up to leave the safe house, one of the resort guards, recently transferred and barely trained, stepped outside to take a call. That's when it happened. A black van screeched up the dusty road. 2 men in masks jumped out. One tackled the guard. The other ran straight for the house. Inside, Toby was brushing his teeth in the bathroom while Eniola folded clothes. She heard the door slam open. Dapo ran toward the hallway shouting, "Who's there?" But the man was fast. Too fast. By the time Dapo reached the living room, the front door was open and Toby was gone. "No!" Eniola screamed, running outside barefoot. She saw the van speeding away, its tires kicking up dust. "Toby!" she cried, her legs giving out beneath her. Dapo pulled out his phone, shouting orders. "Track the plates! Block the roads! Tell the Calabar police I want every exit watched!" But Eniola wasn't hearing him anymore. She collapsed on the grass, sobbing. Her worst fear had just come true. Minutes later, Bissy's phone rang. "It's done," the voice on the other end said. "We have the boy." "Good," Bissy said, smiling to herself. "Now let's see how brave his mother is without him." She hung up and poured herself another glass of wine. Let the game begin. Back at the house, Dapo knelt beside Eniola. "We'll find him," he whispered. She looked up at him, her face pale, her voice shaking. "If she touches a hair on his head, I will burn the world down." Dapo had never seen that fire in her eyes before. This wasn't the same woman who begged for leftovers. This was a mother who had nothing left to lose, and those are the most dangerous women of all. The police came late. The roadblocks were useless. The van had vanished like smoke in wind. Eniola sat in the back of the patrol car, silent, her hands clenched so tight her nails cut into her palms. She refused food. She refused rest. Her baby was gone, her only reason for breathing. She wasn't just angry anymore. She was ready. Dapo tried to calm her. "We're working with cybercrime to trace the text. The number was bounced through 6 servers, but we'll get a location soon." Eniola didn't respond. He turned to her gently. "We'll find him." She looked up. Her eyes were cold now. Steel. Fire. "No," she said. "I'll find him." Meanwhile, in a warehouse outside Port Harcourt, Toby sat on a small mattress, surrounded by boxes and shadows. A tall man with a scar on his cheek sat nearby, reading messages on a burner phone. Toby sniffed quietly. "I want my mummy." Scarface looked at him. Something flickered in his eyes. "You're lucky, you know," he said, not unkindly. "Some kids don't get mothers like yours." He stood and walked to the other end of the room, where a small phone buzzed. It was Bissy. "Is the boy eating?" "Not really." "Good. Let him feel it," she said. "Send the mother a message." Eniola's phone buzzed. A video. She opened it and nearly dropped the device. Toby, sitting alone, his face red from crying, his voice tiny. "Mummy, please. Come get me. I'll be a good boy. I promise." Then the screen went black, followed by a second message. "You have 48 hours. Bring yourself to me, or never see him again." No location. No clue, just pain. Dapo saw the video. "She's taunting us." Eniola stood slowly. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't. "She doesn't want ransom." "No," Dapo said. "She wants you." "Then I'll give her what she wants." He grabbed her arm. "Eniola, no! That's exactly what she's waiting for." She looked him dead in the eyes. "I am not going to sit here while my son begs for me." She walked to the car. "Where are you going?" he asked. "To start a war." Eniola changed into black jeans, flat shoes, and a head wrap. She looked like a ghost of the woman who once stood under the bridge begging for leftovers. She wasn't weak anymore. She wasn't scared. She was a lioness searching for her cub. She had one name in her head: Chuka. He was an ex-fixer who used to work for Bissy. the kind of man who knew all the dirt but got paid to keep quiet. Rumor had it he disappeared 2 years ago after BC cleaned house. But Eniola remembered something. Chuka used to live behind a mechanic's shop in Surulere. She and Dapo drove there at once. The shop looked abandoned. Rusted cars, broken tools, a bent umbrella. But inside the last shed, they found him. Half drunk, half awake, but alive. When he saw Eniola, he blinked. "I know that face. I need information," she said. "Now." Chuka laughed. "I don't work for free." Dapo stepped forward, threw a fat envelope on the table. "Talk." Chuka picked it up, flipped through the cash, and smiled. "BC has 4 safe houses, but for something this sensitive, she'll use the one with no records." "Where?" Eniola asked. He pointed to a red dot on a paper map. An old fish processing plant. Outside Port Harcourt. No cameras, no guards, just shadows. "Is she there?" Dapo asked. "She won't go herself," Chuka replied. "But her dogs will, and they won't expect a woman like you to walk through the front gate." Eniola turned to Dapo. "I'm going." He grabbed her wrist. "Then I'm going with you." "No. If I walk in with you, they'll smell it's a trap. I go alone. They expect weakness." Dapo shook his head. "You are not weak." "No," she said softly. "I'm not. But I'll let them think I am. Just long enough to get my son." That night, dressed as a delivery cleaner, Eniola stepped out of a hired bus 2 streets away from the warehouse. She had no weapons, no plan, just a mother's love. And sometimes, that's stronger than any gun. The wind howled through the broken windows of the abandoned fish plant. Rats scurried in the shadows. The stink of old blood and salt still clung to the walls. Eniola stepped inside with slow, careful steps, carrying a fake cleaning bucket. Her heart pounded louder than her footsteps. Every corner of the place screamed danger. She scanned the room. Empty crates, oil drums, silence. Then a voice cut through the darkness. "You came alone?" She turned. It was Scarface, the man from the video. His face was half lit by a swinging bulb. Behind him stood another masked man. Eniola nodded, lips tight. "Where's my son?" he smirked. "You're brave, I'll give you that. I'm not here for compliments. I came for Toby." He tilted his head. "You think you can just walk in here and take him?" "I don't care what you do to me," she said, voice shaking but firm. "But if you hurt my child..." Scarface laughed. "You think BC wants the boy dead? No, she wants him damaged, broken enough that you will never be whole again." Eniola's fists clenched. "Where is my son?" Scarface waved. From behind a wooden partition, a thin voice cried, "Mummy! Toby!" Eniola screamed, running toward him, but she didn't get far. Scarface stepped in front of her and held out a small device, a phone. He pressed a button. A live stream started on the screen. BC, in a hotel suite, watching calmly with a glass of wine in hand. "Hello, Eniola," she said, smiling. Eniola's blood went cold. "I must say, you have spirit. I underestimated you," Bissy purred. "But this ends tonight. You either beg, publicly, or your child gets shipped to a country you'll never trace." Eniola trembled. "You want me to go live and humiliate myself?" she asked. "Yes," BC replied. "Confess to everything. Cry. Beg the public to forgive you. Say I saved you." Eniola's hands shook. Scarface moved closer, holding out the phone. "Do it, or we send him away. Forever." Toby cried louder now. "Mummy, please!" Tears filled Eniola's eyes. This wasn't a test of strength. It was emotional execution. Eniola stared at the camera. The screen blinked. Thousands were already tuning in. It had been scheduled. BC had planned every second. Scarface whispered, "Now, or we take him." Eniola turned the phone to her face, wiping her tears. Then she said softly, "I'm ready." Bisi leaned forward from her hotel suite, smiling. "Go on," Eniola breathed deep. And then, she did the unexpected. She looked straight into the camera and began to laugh. Not a fake laugh, a loud, confident, fearless laugh. Scarface blinked. "What?" Bisi frowned. "What is she doing?" Eniola spoke calmly into the camera. "Name is Eniola Ajayi. And no, I'm not a thief. I'm not a beggar. I'm a mother. And if you think I'll kneel on camera to make a monster look like a saint, you've lost your mind. This is the woman behind the kidnapping of my son. The one blackmailing me, ruining lives. Bisi Ikenna, the powerful billionaire everyone fears. This is your hero." The men lunged toward her, but it was too late. Dapo's voice burst through a hidden earpiece in her ear. "Eniola, we got it. The live stream recorded everything. Police are tracking the signal now." She ducked, just as the back wall of the Dai warehouse exploded. Smoke, flashlights, yelling. Dapo's private security team stormed in. Gunshots fired into the air. The masked men ran but were quickly pinned. Scarface tried to flee with Toby, but Dapo himself tackled him from behind. Touch. "That boy again," Dapo growled, "and I swear your next home will be in a casket." Eniola rushed to Toby, scooping him up, sobbing. "Mummy's here," she whispered. "I've got you. I've got you." Toby hugged her tightly, crying into her chest. 10 minutes later, Bisi's suite door flew open. Police entered with cameras, arrest warrants, and live news crews. She stood frozen, lips trembling. You don't have proof." Dapo's lawyer stepped forward. "Actually, we have everything, including your live instructions to kidnap a child. Say hello to 20 years in Kirikiri." As she was handcuffed, the press flashed their lights, shouting questions. Bisi tried to speak, but her voice cracked. The world watched as the queen fell. That night, in a small house back in Calabar, Eniola and Toby lay curled up on the bed. Dapo sat nearby, watching them, quiet. Eniola looked at him, tears in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing me, for fighting beside me." He smiled gently. "You didn't need saving. You just needed someone who wouldn't run when things got hard." She reached out, took his hand, and whispered, "I think we're stronger together." And, for the first time since that day under the bridge, Eniola allowed herself to believe, maybe, just maybe, she and her son had found a new beginning. It had only been 2 days since Bisi's arrest, but the entire country was still spinning. Newspapers carried bold headlines. "Billionaire Bisi Ikenna, arrested for child kidnapping." From street to strength, the woman who brought a queen-pin-down TV anchors replayed the warehouse video over and over, the moment Eniola stared into the camera and turned the world upside down with just her voice and her pain. Eniola couldn't leave the house. Reporters were camped outside the gate. NGOs wanted to interview her. Talk show hosts offered money for her story. Strangers donated diapers, toys, even job offers. But inside the small bungalow in Calabar, she didn't feel like a hero. She barely felt human. She still couldn't sleep. Without seeing Toby's face on that mattress, scared and calling her name. She still flinched at the sound of car engines, afraid another black van was outside. Dapo tried to help. He moved his work to Calabar temporarily, hired extra security, took calls all day trying to manage the PR explosion his company was facing. But every night, he came back to her and sat quietly, even if she didn't speak. On the third morning, Eniola finally opened the curtains and stepped into the light. Toby was playing with a donated toy car. He was smiling again, and she knew it was time to take her life back. That evening, she told Dapo, "I want to tell my story, the full one, from the beginning." "You don't have to," he said softly. "I know," she replied. "But I want to. If even one woman out there sees it and finds her strength, it's worth it. So they reached out to one trusted journalist. No payments, no glam, just truth. The interview was set for the next day. A camera crew arrived at the safe house the next morning. Just 2 people, both women. Eniola wore a plain dress, no makeup, no filter, just her. The journalist asked softly, "Are you ready?" Eniola nodded. Then the lights turned on. The red light blinked, and Eniola began. "My name is Eniola Ajayi. I was once a secretary in Ikoyi. I was framed for something I didn't do, and I lost everything, my job, my name, my future." She took a breath. "I ended up on the street. I sold oranges. I begged. I hid from everyone. My son and I survived day by day. Then, one afternoon, I saw a man stepping out of a big black car. I didn't ask for money. I asked for leftovers, just food for my child. That moment changed my life. Not because a billionaire helped me, but because I realized my shame couldn't save my son. Only courage could." The journalist asked, "What would you say to women who feel invisible, like you once did?" Eniola looked straight into the lens. Don't wait for permission to rise. Don't wait for someone to rescue you. Stand, even if your legs are shaking. Speak, even if your voice cracks. Because you are not invisible. Not to God, not to your child, not to yourself. The video went viral overnight. Millions watched it. Millions cried. Women wrote letters. Men apologized. Students created posters with her face and the words, "Stand, even if your legs shake." Back at the house, Dapo turned to her and smiled. "You've started something. Bigger than you, bigger than me." Eniola smiled back. "Good. Let's make it count." But deep in Lagos, behind a prison wall, Bisi sat in her cell watching the interview. Her eyes didn't blink. She didn't move. And slowly, a thin, cold smile crept across her face. "This isn't over," she whispered. Prison had stripped Bisi of her designer gowns and private jets, but it had done nothing to kill her pride. She still walked through the yard like a queen in exile. The other inmates gave her space. Even the guards watched her carefully. She wasn't loud, she wasn't violent, but she was thinking, plotting, waiting. The day after Eniola's interview went viral, Bisi received a small envelope during lunch. No return address, just her name written in elegant cursive. Inside was a photograph, a picture of Dapo shaking hands with a woman in front of a luxury real estate sign, his face smiling. The caption on the board behind him read, "Project Sunrise, a housing dream funded by love." Bisi's jaw tightened. She knew what it meant. Dapo wasn't just helping Eniola quietly anymore. He was planning something permanent, something public. A national housing project inspired by Eniola's story, with her as the face. "They're turning her into a symbol," Bisi muttered. "And symbols don't die easily." She opened her notebook, smuggled in by a crooked guard. Inside were names, addresses, and one final card she had kept hidden all these years, Eniola's brother. The real reason Eniola ran after the Ikoyi scandal. Someone no one had mentioned. Someone who could still bring her entire story crashing down. Eniola sat at the breakfast table, helping Toby with his drawing, when Dapo walked in holding a brown envelope. He looked tense. "What is it?" she asked. "Something strange," he said, placing the envelope on the table. It had been delivered anonymously to the Calabar address. Inside were 2 things: a faded photo of Eniola, much younger, standing beside a teenage boy, and a note. "Ask her where this boy is. Ask her why he hasn't been seen in 5 years." Eniola's face drained of color. She snatched the photo and stared at it. "My God," she whispered. "They found him." Dapo stepped closer. "Who is he?" She didn't speak right away. She sat down slowly, holding the picture like it was on fire. Then she looked up, tears in her eyes. "That's my younger brother. His name is Ayo. He disappeared 5 years ago. Because of me. Dapo sat beside her, silent, waiting. Eniola took a deep breath. When the money went missing from the school, it wasn't me. It was Ayo. He got mixed up with a gang. He used my staff pass to get into the accounts. Dapo listened quietly, letting her continue. I tried to fix it. I begged him to return the money. But when the police started investigating, he ran, disappeared without a word. And you took the blame, Dapo asked. I thought it would protect him. He was just a boy. But the truth destroyed my life anyway. Now it all made sense. Why she never told her full story, why she never went to the police, why guilt clung to her like a shadow. I don't even know if he's alive, she whispered, but someone did, and that someone was Bisi. Later that day, another envelope arrived. This time it was addressed to Toby. Inside was a note and a SIM card. The note read, "One call, one secret. Everything ends," and on the back, "We still have Ayo." Eniola stood alone in the guest room, the SIM card in her palm, her heart pounding. Like war drums in her chest, Ayo, still alive. Or was it another trap? She stared at the note again. One call, one secret. Everything ends. Her hands trembled. Dapo stood outside the room, pacing. He didn't want to push her, but he had seen enough signs to know this wasn't just blackmail. It was emotional warfare. Finally, she stepped out. "Help me activate the SIM," she whispered. Dapo hesitated. "You're sure?" "No," she said. "But if my brother's alive, I need to hear his voice." Minutes later, the SIM card was inside a spare phone. It rang once, then again. Then, someone picked up. A boy's voice. Older now, but still familiar. "Hello?" Eniola's legs almost gave out. "Ayo?" she whispered. There was a pause. "Eniola?" Tears rushed to her eyes. "Ayo! Oh my God, where are you? Are you safe? Are they hurting you?" I don't know where I am. "They keep moving me. They said I ruined your life. They said I owe you." She cried harder. No, you're my brother. I never stopped looking for you." Then a click. Another voice came on the line. Cold, smug, touching reunion, but time's short. "Here's the offer. You confess on national TV. Say the school. Scandal was all you. Take every blame and disappear, or we make sure Ayo never sees daylight again." Eniola screamed, "You monster!" The voice just laughed. "You wanted justice, didn't you? Now pick, your truth or your blood." She collapsed onto the couch, shaking. Dapo held her tight, wiping her tears. "We'll find him." She looked up. "They'll kill him before we get close." Dapo nodded slowly. "Then we don't wait. We draw them out. We make them come to us." That evening, Eniola recorded another video, but this one wasn't like the others. It was raw, bold, a calculated risk. She sat before the camera, no tears this time. "No pleading. There's something I didn't tell you all before. 5 years ago, I took the fall for someone I loved. I thought protecting him would give him a second chance. But now, they're using him to destroy me again. This is bigger than money. This is about fear. Fear that when a poor woman rises, she'll shake the ground under the people who once stepped on her. To the people hiding in shadows, to those using my brother as bait, I'm not afraid anymore. You took everything from me. Now, I'm coming for everything back." She posted it online with one hashtag, "Where is Ayo?" The response was electric. People began digging, sharing, tracing old files. Pictures of Ayo, whispers of gang connections, anonymous tips. One tip stood out. A woman claimed to have seen Ayo just a week ago, being dragged into a black SUV near Abba. She remembered the tattoo on his wrist, a small spider. It matched Eniola's. Memory exactly. Dapo got to work instantly. He sent a private team to search every safe house near Abba. Within hours, they They found a warehouse with chains, broken cameras, and one used blanket. But no Ayo. They were still moving him. Then, one night later, just after 2 a.m., Eniola's burner phone rang again. Same blocked number. She picked up. "You really thought hashtags would save him," the voice said. "Now, you'll never find him." Eniola's voice was steady. "I already did." Silence. Then she said something that made the caller's breath hitch. "We traced the last burner number you used. We found the car. We found the driver. He's in custody." She paused, and he talked. Another silence. Then the line went dead. She turned to Dapo. "They know we're close." That morning, the police raided a compound just outside Owerri Ayo. Was inside. Alive. Weak, but alive. He had been kept in a soundproof room for over 15 days. When Eniola saw him, she ran into his arms, sobbing, whispering, "I'm sorry. I should have told the truth from the start." Ayo broke down too. "You protected me when no one else did," he said. "Now it's my turn." And now, with the truth finally out. The next step was clear. Take everything Bisi built, down to the ground. The trial of the year began in Lagos High Court on a blazing Monday morning. Hundreds lined the gates. Reporters shouted into cameras. Protesters held placards. Justice. For Eniola. Bisi must pay. Protect Ayo. Protect all. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere was tense. Bisi sat in the defendant's box, wearing a simple gray suit. No makeup, no diamonds. Just cold eyes that hadn't blinked since Eniola walked in. Eniola held Ayo's hand as they sat behind the prosecutors. Dapo sat beside her, calm but alert, whispering quietly, "This is the last battle. We don't back down." The judge entered. The bailiff called order, then the prosecutor stood. "Your Lordship, we present charges against Madam Bisi Ikenna, including kidnapping, child endangerment, blackmail, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy to commit fraud." The courtroom gasped, but it didn't stop there. The bombshell came next. "We also intend to show that Ms. Ikenna laundered money through fake education charities, some of which were connected to the same school where Eniola Ajayi was falsely accused." Bisi's eyes flickered for the first time. Her secrets were unraveling, and it was only day one. Outside court, news spread fast. Social media exploded. Bisi trial. The real villain. Stand with Eniola people shared their own stories of rich oppressors, of injustice, of silence, finally broken. Back inside, Ayo took the stand. He told his story, voice cracking. "I made a mistake. I got into the wrong crowd, but my sister, she never gave up on me. I ran, and she stayed. She took the fall. That was never fair." Bisi's lawyer tried to paint Ayo as unreliable. "Didn't you steal from the school?" "Yes," Ayo said. "But I'm not the one who turned the school into a money laundering front. That was your client." On the fourth day of trial, the judge allowed a surprise witness. An elderly man stepped into the box. "State your name." "Mr. Kola Adebayo. I was Bisi's chief accountant for 15 years. The courtroom fell silent. Mr. Kola opened a large brown file and placed it on the table. "These are records of all the transfers, ghost accounts, fake charities, and private deals Bisi made under her company." "Why speak now?" the prosecutor asked. He looked at Eniola. "Because she almost destroyed that woman for knowing too much. And she would have destroyed me too, if I hadn't disappeared first." The judge leaned forward. "Are you saying she had help covering all this up?" Mr. Kola nodded. "Yes, your lordship. Judges, police commissioners, even media houses. But her biggest mistake was underestimating a woman with nothing to lose." Eniola's eyes filled with tears. Bisi stood up suddenly. "I want to speak." Her lawyer tried to stop her. The judge allowed it. She walked to the front of the courtroom, stood still, and looked straight at Eniola. "You think you've won?" she asked. You think exposing me makes you better than me? Eniola didn't answer. Bisi chuckled bitterly. I made Dapo. I carried that company. I bought silence for years. And now you walk in with your torn slippers and your begging bowl. And you. Dapo stood. That's enough. Bisi turned to him. You betrayed me. You betrayed yourself, he replied. Her voice cracked now. I built this life with blood. You think she deserves it more than me? Yes, Dapo said. Because she fought for it without hurting anyone. Bisi laughed, then broke down, right there, in front of cameras, reporters, strangers. The woman who once ruled Lagos like a queen wept. It was over. The judge banged the gavel. All evidence submitted. Final ruling in 72 hours. Outside, as they walked through the crowd, Eniola squeezed Dapo's hand. Whatever happens, she said, I can breathe again. Dapo nodded. You didn't just win a case, Eniola. You changed a system. 3 days passed like years. The entire country held its breath. The courtroom was packed tighter than ever. The air was thick with tension. Journalists sharpened their pens. Protesters chanted outside. Women held signs with Eniola's face on them. Toby sat quietly beside Dapo, holding a small toy car in one hand and Eniola's hand in the other. The judge walked in, robe flowing, eyes serious. Court will come to order. Bisi sat stiffly in the defendant's chair. Her face was pale. Her lawyers flanked her, emotionless. Eniola sat calmly now. Her pain was raw, but her spirit, unbreakable. The judge read the ruling slowly, each sentence echoing across the courtroom. After reviewing witness testimony, video and audio recordings, financial records, and sworn affidavits, this court finds the defendant, Bisi Ikenna, guilty on all charges. The room erupted in gasps. The judge continued. She is hereby sentenced to 35 years in federal prison without parole, and all her known business assets are to be frozen and redirected to fund women's legal aid across Nigeria. Bisi collapsed. Into her chair. It was done. Justice had finally been served. Reporters rushed Eniola outside the courthouse. Ms. Ajayi, do you have anything to say? She turned to the cameras, held Toby in her arms, and smiled. Yes, I do. This wasn't just about me. It was about every woman who's been silenced, every poor mother told she didn't belong. I stood up, even when my knees shook. And if I can do it, you can too. The crowd roared with applause. And in the middle of it all, Dapo looked at her like he was seeing the sunrise after a long, dark night. 6 months later, Eniola walked into a massive construction site on the outskirts of Lagos. Billboards lined the road. Sunrise Housing Estate, affordable homes for single mothers. A project inspired by Eniola Ajayi. She wore a yellow hard hat now, a site coordinator vest, and her own company logo on her shirt. She wasn't begging for leftovers anymore. She was building futures. Dapo stood beside her, holding her hand. Ayo, now enrolled in a business program, helped manage the logistics team. Toby ran across the fresh pavement with a new backpack and a real future. They had come full circle, from the bridge to the boardroom, from begging to becoming a beacon. At the grand opening ceremony, Eniola stepped on stage, took a breath, and looked out at the crowd. You know, not long ago I thought I had lost everything. But life has a strange way of testing us before trusting us with something bigger. I started this journey with shame in my belly and a hungry child in my arms. Today, I stand here not just as a survivor, but as a builder of homes, of hope, and of new beginnings. She smiled at Toby, then at Dapo, and to anyone still out there begging for leftovers. Just know, one day, you too can own the whole table. The crowd erupted, and somewhere in the sky, above the cement and steel and sweat, a new story was being written.